Good morning, everyone. I am on my way to work, and it kind of crossed my brain that I had something I wanted to share and discuss with people and maybe get some feedback, or maybe this will be some advice for folks that are listening. And it's in regards to difficult relationships. And this kind of spans, familial relationships, friendships, co-workers, to romantic relationships. And one thing I have noticed a lot in my adult life is that we people are very quick to dismiss or cut off folks that do not serve us, or we find irritating. And to some degree, I think that is healthy, as far as, as an individual, setting boundaries and not allowing toxicity in your life, not tolerating people to repeatedly offend you or hurt you or sabotage you. That is all very well and good. But there is a piece to that I feel, or at least I know I have personally only recently came to realize that I'm responsible for. One of which is, we may have boundaries that we have in our own head where we are offended or unsettled by the behaviors, actions, or words of others, but we fail to make other people aware of it, but we hold them accountable, almost like everybody's psychic. And this is not just women, men do it too. We are not always clear with those that are around us what our boundaries are. So with that being said, we have these boundaries. We're not explaining them. We're not being clear what they are. For example, and this is just a minor one, I cannot stand the word retarded. I find it highly offensive. I have a special needs son. I don't take it lightly. I don't find it funny. It absolutely irritates me. People do use it in conversation, slang. However, anyone that is around me, I do let them know, don't say that. Do not say that. I find it offensive. Now I've established the boundary. It is very clear. Do not say that. I don't appreciate it. I also don't allow people to cuss at me. If they are cussing in explanation, I can understand that because maybe they're passionate, but you are not going to call me out of my name, disrespect me, and expect me to stand there and take it. Absolutely will not happen. I will cut you off every single time. You're not going to abuse me. But I'm very clear when that starts. I have no problem hearing what you have to say, but you are not going to insult me. You're not going to call me out of my name. You will come at me with respect, and I'm going to come at you with respect. So that's some of the areas. But then there are other areas where maybe we have a certain expectation of our spouse, our mother, our father, our sister, our brother, our cousin, our boss, our coworker, because of the title that they have in our life. And so in our head, we expect that they behave a certain kind of way based on who they are supposed to be in our life. And I'll use mother because that's a big one. Most people feel your mother is supposed to be understanding, nurturing, loving, caring, giving, and almost unflawed. Mothers hold a very, very high position in the world. And as a mother myself, I fall short more than I care to admit. It's embarrassing. It's awful when I lose my temper and I raise my voice, and I have made my son feel like crap, and I would rather cut off my right arm than make my son feel horrible. I have not always handled situations properly. And I'm not going to add but, or I'm not going to add an excuse, because there is no excuse for it. And, and thinking about that, I know I have personally cut off family relationships. And just take it from someone who knows. You do not ever want to dismiss someone that's in your family. Ever. I don't care what they did, how they have, may have hurt you. You don't cut them off completely. That is one thing that will always be. You share a bloodline. Your family is constant. They will never cease to be your mother, your father, your sister, cousin, brother. They will always be those things. Now, how you allow them to show up in your life, that you can control. I have personally cut off several members of not only my family, but my husband's family due to behaviors that were extremely toxic and unhealthy, and just was not a good situation for us. And I genuinely felt that at the time, that was the right thing to do. And going back and kind of dissecting this, and now mind you, me having this video conversation, this is years after the fact. Because in the moment, I was hot, I was done, I could not take no more. It was absolutely too much, and too many boundaries had been crossed. But in dissecting how all of these relationships dissolved and where we are no longer even speaking, there were a lot of boundary issues that we failed to announce. We did not make these other parties aware that they were crossing boundaries, because we shut our mouth. We just kind of tolerated it as in, that's just who they are. And, there are elders, so there's a level of respect, growing up in the generation that my husband and I grew up in. You respect your elders, you don't talk back to them. Almost putting elders as in they're never wrong, which is absolutely not true. Because now I'm an elder to other folks, and I am wrong sometimes. And I have to swallow that big pill and admit that I'm wrong, and admit when I have hurt somebody or offended somebody. So adults are wrong. They're not always behaving appropriately, because they're doing the best they can with how they were raised and what they know and the knowledge that they have. And they may not even have a self-awareness of their impact on you. So long story short, we have cut off some very intimate family relationships that now I very much regret, because I was not clear in the boundaries. My husband was not clear in the boundaries, and we allowed behaviors to happen. Now, we could still have those relationships, even though these are toxic people, but we could have had them with new defined parameters, as in, maybe we're not hanging out, maybe we're just doing an occasional phone call, say, hey, how are you doing? An occasional send a Christmas card, send a present, but still have some kind of relationship, just not one where they're invited in to cause the drama, the turmoil, and the stress. And so if you are having difficult relationships in your family, I just strongly urge, before it's too late, do not cut folks off. And when you are thinking about these people that hold a title or a position in your life, first thing you need to do when looking at them and the dynamic of the relationship, remove the title. Because with the title comes some expectation in your own head about how they should behave. And you're not allowing them to be true to who they are and where they're at in life. You're not being fair. You're doing them a disservice, and you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're holding them to some caliber, some gauge, some imagery of what you think an aunt, an uncle, a mother, a brother, a sister, a father should be. And they may have a totally different thought of what their position entails. And so then you have this disharmony and chaos and hurt feelings and folks not getting along. Remove it. Just remove it. And start looking at the person as just a person, their life experiences, where they are, and how they are showing up in your life. Because maybe the way that they are showing up in your life, it's not a reflection of you. It is a reflection of their experiences. I have a biological mother in which I have an extremely strained relationship. My grandmother raised me. I call my grandmother Mom. She has since passed. She passed almost 6 years ago. And that was just earth-shattering to me because she held many titles. She was, my mother, my father, my grandmother, and my grandfather. She had 4 titles in my life. She was present in all of those ways for me. Now, my biological mother, she never said, I love you. She never hugged me. She never kissed me. She never said she was proud of me. She has done some pretty awful things. She has tried to sabotage my jobs, cost me my job. She has tried to sabotage one place where I lived. She has also tried to sabotage not only my relationship with my now spouse, but my relationship with other family members. And this has just been a repeated behavior, not only in childhood, but through my entire adult life. And so there were definitely periods where we would go years without talking. There'd be some kind of blow up, and I'd stop talking to her, and then somehow, the dust would settle, and we would try to, have a relationship again, and then boom, there would be another upset. And the worst part about this god-awful roller coaster, not only was it uncomfortable for me and probably for her, my son was on the ride too. One minute he'd have a grandma and a grandpa, and then the next minute he didn't, and no idea why. And I'm a firm believer you don't badmouth family to your kid ever, at all, because the same blood that runs through their veins runs through theirs, and I don't want my kid to feel like he's less than something because of his grandmother or grandfather or his father. Like, you just don't talk poorly of family with your children or around your children. But yeah, so he went on this ride, and that absolutely broke my heart because I'm watching my kid who misses his grandparents, and he has no idea the things that they have done that would impact him. Like, if I were to lose my job, I would no longer financially be able to provide for my kid for however long it took to get a new one, and it would cause strain. Or, at one point, if I had lost my home because of something she did or said, that would have put us in another situation. He has no idea, and I will never share that with him. He doesn't need to know. That is just painful, and that's going to make him feel some kind of way. And in reality, what I should have done in all of those situations was get to a state of calm and have a point-blank conversation with her regarding her actions, what I know she did, how it impacts us, and how that is not acceptable, and it better never happen again. Instead, I did not maintain my calm. I was kind of like, a cat that just got a bath. I was furious, claws out, absolutely in total upset. And in that total upset, decided, I'm going to make some big life decisions here, and I'm going to cut her off. I'm going to show her I'm not allowing her to enter my life and do all this nonsense. Big mistake. It's a big mistake. Now, years later, and I'm thinking about my mother and who she is, there are and I'm not going to put her business out there, but she had an extremely difficult childhood. She had me very young. There was no way she was equipped on any level to raise a child, nor should she have been. She was a child herself. Her heart is very hard. When she is hurt, she attacks, because she has endured so much hurt in her life that she attacks. She will take you out before you can hurt her. And you may not even know that you're hurting her. Maybe I didn't call her enough, or go out of my way enough, or spend enough time with her. I don't know. I don't know. But her response was, and her behavior, is just a reflection of the pain that she has. And then I started thinking about that. She literally has no family relations. There is not a soul in the family who talks to her, who entertains her, who calls and even asks how she's doing. It has been this way for years, because her behavior wasn't just directed towards me. It really extends to anyone who has come in contact with her. And instead of looking at what kind of person would behave in such a way, it was too busy like, oh my goodness, I can't believe she did this. And it was kind of taking an inventory of, you're so wrong. And yes, she is wrong, and she has caused a lot of problems and hurt a lot of people. But I don't think any of us stopped to think, how much hurt could she possibly have to where she is showing up in people's lives in this way? And why is she hurting that way? And are there conversations that can be had that would help her have more self-awareness, help her self-heal? I know over the years I have tried to have some conversation with her. I tried to get neutral and not allow the things that she said to upset me. It's very hard. Very, very hard. But again, I never should have written her off, because God forbid if she were to tragically pass away unexpectedly, I'm sure I would sit down and think of all the ways I probably could have handled things differently. How, every day that ticks by, I, maybe could have extended an olive branch, had a conversation, and if nothing else, an opportunity to restore, or at least come on some common ground. Do not get me wrong. I do not expect to have a loving mother-daughter relationship. I do not hold that expectation. In fact, I have absolutely no expectation whatsoever. But I do think that sometimes the resolve is just recognizing, we just don't get along, and our interaction needs to be minimal. And I just lost you because I hit a bump and you're on the dashboard. Not sure if I'm still recording. I think I am. Sorry. Hope I didn't hurt your head. But I never should have cut her off. And that's my point. So the whole purpose of going down that rabbit hole and sharing all those intimate personal details is I just want to make people aware. Don't cut off your family. Don't. Set some parameters, set some boundaries. Maybe keep a very minimal contact, but don't completely cut them off. Folks constantly, oh my goodness, okay. You're constantly, as people, growing, evolving, changing, and do not think that they're not growing, evolving, and changing too. So be open enough to allow them to demonstrate their change to you. Don't hold them hostage by what they did 10 years ago, 5 years ago. You don't want someone bringing up everything you ever did wrong and assuming you're a certain kind of way when maybe you had tremendous growth in the last year. Just a thought. Give them room to grow. Water their seed. Don't allow them to be toxic in your life or cause mayhem. But be open to the possibility of change and remove those titles. Stop having some grandiose expectation of them just because they happen to be your mother or your father. They are people, human beings with life experiences. They did not have a handbook on what to do. I mean, quite frankly, there is a huge difference in how I was raised, which I don't think was terrible at all. It was actually quite wonderful. And how people are raising their children now. Huge difference. Huge. And the life experiences are different. So, that is my thoughts for now. I'm going to get a fountain soda and go to work.